You can always tell an interview is going badly when somebody suddenly starts pretending they've never seen one of the most controversial things their political ally has ever posted. And that's exactly what happened when David Remnick pressed Dana White over Donald Trump and accusations of racism. Welcome back, everybody. Make sure you subscribe, comment where you're watching from, and let me know your thoughts, because this conversation became painfully awkward the deeper they got into Trump's behavior. David Remnick's interview with Dana White got uncomfortable fast after White tried defending Donald Trump against racism accusations while avoiding Trump's actual behavior. The biggest moment came when Remnick mentioned the video Trump shared depicting the Obamas as apes, and White awkwardly claimed he had never seen it. Throughout the interview, White called himself a center-left Democrat but refused to seriously criticize Trump, constantly dodging questions and falling back on personal loyalty arguments. The exchange exposed a familiar pattern from Trump allies: deny the racism, accuse critics of exaggerating, then point to Trump's relationships with black celebrities as proof he can't be racist. In the end, the interview showed why critics believe Trump's inner circle refuses to honestly confront the rhetoric that many Americans see as racially divisive. I've definitely got some thoughts about the way Trump allies keep trying to explain this stuff away, so stay tuned because we're about to get into it together. This exchange exposed a lot more than Dana White probably intended.
In my 20s, my late teens and 20s, I spent in Massachusetts, which is very liberal. I would consider myself a 80s, 90s Democrat.
Have you changed over time politically?
No, I haven't changed.
So you remain a kind of center-left Democrat?
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Do you talk politics with Trump? Or did you before the first convention?
No.
That wasn't a currency of your conversation, of your relationship.
If you look at any of my speeches at the conventions or any of that, I don't ever say the left is wrong or the left is bad or the left is this. I spoke about who he is as a person and as a friend and as a human being, because a lot of the narrative that they put out there about him and who he is as a person is gross.
But doesn't he
absolutely positively not true?
Okay, so let's dig into that a little bit too. I think it's fair to say that if he has that reputation, it doesn't come from outer space.
Oh, it does. It comes from politics. That's where it comes from.
Doesn't it come from some of his rhetoric and some of his way of treating people and talking about people? And
no, I think that, listen, did I wish that back in the day he'd stay off Twitter a little bit more and things like, listen, he's a tough guy and he's not afraid to give his opinion, but he's been talking about politics since he was young. I mean, if you look back at him, but these things that he's a racist and he's a Nazi and he's this and that. I mean, Donald Trump, all this stuff's coming out now. The Michael movie just came out, and you see all these videos now popping up of Trump defending Michael Jackson and the type of person that he was, and that Michael Jackson was around his children and around his family a lot.
But wait a minute, Dana. Michael Jackson, as talented as he was, as brilliant as he was a deeply, deeply flawed human being, to say the least, and was abusive. Everything we know about him.
Wait. He was
toward
abusive?
Kids. Yes, it's terrible.
I don't know if that's true. But I can tell you that, the president had a very good relationship with Michael Jackson and had Michael Jackson around his kids all the time and, defended him when that stuff was going down.
Do you ever talk politics with the president?
To call the guy a racist is crazy. He's not a racist.
Well, look, I don't want to go on endlessly about Donald Trump because, then that's all we'll do. But when he puts out a video that shows the Obamas as apes and then won't even apologize for it, you don't get the willies from that?
No, I've been around the guy so much,
but that doesn't give you pause, Dana?
As far as what?
About his views just about his way he talks about other human beings, much less race.
But if that's the way if he was that type of a person, first of all, I became friends with this guy, never even imagining that he would be the president of the United States someday.
Right.
And if he was that type of person, I would never associate with that type of a person, no matter who he was or who he thinks he is.
But if he does that, how is he not that kind of person?
He's not.
But do you know something that I know? In other words, what you're telling me is that you kind of know, of course you know him better personally, but he's the most transparent personality we have in public life. He talks to the press all the time. He's on social media all the time. It seems sometimes there's nothing that we don't know about him.
Very true.
So he's almost as apparent to me as he is to you.
And I don't know about the Obama thing to speak. To speak on it. I've never seen it. I didn't know that, but I can tell you this: he's not a racist. He's not a fascist. He loves this country, and if you're an American, race, religion, whatever it is, President Trump is on your team. That I guarantee.
What made this interview so revealing is that it perfectly captured the impossible balancing act many high-profile Trump allies are now trying to perform in public. They want to present themselves as reasonable, moderate, even politically independent figures while simultaneously defending virtually everything Donald Trump says and does, including behavior that would instantly destroy the reputation of almost any other politician in modern American history. That contradiction is the entire story here. Because Dana White spent this interview trying to convince the audience of two completely incompatible things at the same time. First, that he's supposedly a center-left Democrat with moderate instincts, and second, that Donald Trump, despite years of racially charged rhetoric, conspiracies, attacks, imagery, and more, is simply being unfairly maligned by politics and the media. Those two positions do not naturally fit together, and David Remnick clearly understood that. That's why the interview became increasingly uncomfortable the deeper it went. Because once you move past vague statements like Trump loves America or he's a good friend, you eventually run into the unavoidable reality of Trump's actual public behavior over the years. That's the problem every Trump defender eventually encounters. At some point, the conversation stops being theoretical and starts becoming specific. Specific comments, specific videos, specific rhetoric, specific attacks, specific moments. And when that happens, most Trump allies fall back on the exact same strategy Dana White used here: deny, minimize, deflect, or suddenly claim ignorance. The "I've never seen it" defense regarding the Obama ape video was especially revealing because it demonstrated just how fragile the entire argument really is. Dana White is not some disconnected guy living off the grid who accidentally missed a major controversy involving one of the most famous politicians on earth. He lives online. He operates in elite media and celebrity circles. He speaks at Republican conventions. He openly campaigns for Trump.
The idea that he somehow missed one of Trump's most controversial racist controversies strains credibility completely. But he almost had to pretend not to know about it, because acknowledging it honestly would immediately collapse the entire defense he was trying to build. That's what makes these conversations so frustrating for many viewers. Trump allies constantly ask people to ignore the evidence directly in front of them and instead trust personal testimonials from insiders who say, well, he was nice to me, or he can't be racist because he knew this black celebrity, or he can't be racist because he had minority friends. But racism has never worked that simplistically. That's one of the biggest problems with the way many Trump defenders frame these conversations. They treat racism as though it only exists in the form of explicit segregation-era hatred, as if the only real racist is someone openly screaming slurs in public. But modern political racism is often expressed through rhetoric, coded language, dehumanizing stereotypes, conspiracies, and targeted scapegoating. And Trump has repeatedly engaged in exactly that kind of rhetoric for years. That's not media invention. That's documented public behavior. This is the same man who launched his political rise by promoting the racist birther conspiracy against Barack Obama. The same man who referred to majority black countries as shithole countries. The same man who pushed fear-mongering narratives about Somali immigrants. The same man who demonized Haitian migrants with grotesque conspiracy rhetoric presentations. The same man who repeatedly portrayed Mexican immigrants as criminals and rapists during his rise to power. The same man who told congresswomen of color to go back to other countries, despite most of them being American citizens. At some point, people stop accepting the excuse that all of this is just media distortion, especially when the pattern repeats over and over and over again. And that's why Remnick's point about Trump's reputation not coming from outer space was so devastating. Because Trump defenders often talk as though accusations of racism emerged randomly out of nowhere, as if millions of Americans collectively hallucinated years of rhetoric and behavior. But reputations are built through actions.
Trump's critics did not invent his public persona for him. He created it himself through decades of statements, controversies, and political strategies that consistently relied on racial grievance, fear, and division. And honestly, Dana White's performance here reflects something broader happening inside conservative media culture right now. A lot of influential figures want the benefits of proximity to Trump without fully owning the implications of what they're defending. They want access to his audience, his political movement, his influence, and his power, while still presenting themselves as above partisanship or beyond extremism. That's why Dana White insists he's center-left. That label serves a purpose. It creates the impression that even reasonable moderates supposedly look at Trump and conclude he's unfairly attacked. It gives the defense more credibility than if he simply said, "Yes, I'm MAGA and proud of it." But the problem is that once you spend years publicly defending Trump at every turn while refusing to meaningfully criticize him, the moderate independent branding starts looking performative. People notice the disconnect. Especially because Dana White could not name a serious moral concern about Trump even when directly confronted with examples. Everything became an excuse, a misunderstanding, or something he conveniently hadn't seen. That's not neutrality. That's loyalty. And the Michael Jackson defense might have been the strangest moment of all because it revealed how desperate these defenses often become. The logic was essentially, Trump spent time around a famous black celebrity decades ago, therefore accusations of racism must be false. That argument completely misses the point. Nobody is claiming Trump refuses to interact with black people personally. The issue is his political rhetoric, the narratives he amplifies, the groups he targets, and the stereotypes he repeatedly leans into publicly for political gain. And this is where many Trump defenders become trapped, because they keep trying to defend him based on private interactions, while critics are evaluating him based on public behavior as President of the United States. Those are two different things. Someone can absolutely be personally charming in private settings while still promoting racially divisive politics publicly. History is filled with politicians who maintained personal friendships across racial lines while simultaneously supporting harmful rhetoric or discriminatory systems politically.
That contradiction is not unusual at all. And politically, this is one reason Trump remains such a polarizing figure even after years in the spotlight. His supporters often focus heavily on intent, claiming critics are misunderstanding him, while critics focus on impact and patterns of behavior. But over time, repeated patterns matter more than isolated explanations. And that's ultimately why defenses like Dana White's increasingly struggle outside hardcore MAGA spaces. Independent voters and minority communities are not simply reacting to one comment or one controversy. They are reacting to years of accumulated rhetoric and behavior that consistently points in the same direction. That's the larger reality this interview exposed. Not just Trump's conduct itself, but the increasingly strained effort required to defend it while still pretending it's all normal, misunderstood, or fabricated by politics. Because at a certain point, constantly claiming he's not racist while refusing to seriously engage with the actual evidence starts sounding less like an argument and more like a ritual, a loyalty test where acknowledging obvious reality becomes politically unacceptable inside Trump's orbit. And that may be the most revealing thing about the entire interview. Dana White did not sound like someone independently evaluating Trump's behavior objectively. He sounded like someone protecting a relationship, protecting access, and protecting allegiance, even when doing so required denying things sitting directly in front of the public's eyes.